We're less than 3 weeks away from what will likely be an unprecedented presidential election, and the tension is certainly building by the minute. Opposing views of all kinds, whether political, moral, or spiritual, are everywhere these days. And it's not just in the headlines. This tension often spills over into our closest relationships, particularly when your spiritual journey is important to you and all but non existent to those around you. Today, let's dive into how you can stay true to your spiritual path while still finding ways to keep your relationships healthy and balanced, even when the people in your life just don't get where you're coming from. Right now on Higher Journeys with Alexis Brooks. For many of you, diving into alternative subjects like ETs, UFOs, or consciousness feels like an awakening. But when your friends or your family or your coworkers don't share that same curiosity, it can create tension, to say the least. In some cases, it can end relationships altogether. You might find yourself holding back in conversations, feeling the need to explain yourself, or even questioning your own experiences. It can feel isolating when those closest to you dismiss or downplay something that feels super important to you. You might be excited to share a breakthrough or a profound experience, but then you find yourself being met with blank stares or uncomfortable snickering. Over time, this can lead to self censorship, where you stop sharing entirely because you fear ridicule, judgment, or rejection. Worse yet, you may start to internalize their skepticism. You might begin to question your own truth, wondering if you're imagining things or if what you're experiencing even has value. To be sure, it's hard to stay grounded on your spiritual path when the people around you see it as strange and unrealistic, right? The gap between your reality and theirs can sometimes feel like a chasm, a schism, even. You might feel torn between wanting to be true to yourself and wanting to maintain peace in your relationships. And that's well understood. But this can lead to feelings of frustration and loneliness or even guilt for pursuing a path that others don't understand. I'll never forget how a young woman I'd had on the show, probably about 10 years ago now, wanted to share with enthusiasm a past life regression she'd recently had at the time. Now, in that regression, she came to find out that not only had she lived many previous lives, like probably many of us, but in some of those lives, she'd been alien. I actually met her at a Richard Dolan lecture at the time, and I was so taken by her excitement to share her experience with the audience. I thought maybe she'd like to tell her story on my show. So I asked her, and she happily agreed. So we recorded the show. All went well. But about 3 or so weeks later, I get this urgent email from her begging me to take the show down. I agreed, of course, but I had to ask her why all of a sudden did she want it taken down? What she told me was that shortly after all this happened to her, going to get the regression and learning about her life as something other than human, she shared this with her friends circle, her friendship circle, and she received so much blowback and bullying that she said she wanted to leave her hometown, somewhere she'd lived all of her life. Well, fortunately, her family was supportive, and I think even her mother went with her at the time to her regression session, so she did have that family support. But her so-called friends saw things much differently. They chided her, they laughed at her, and ultimately they bullied her. They drove her away. Very sad. Mind you, we're talking about adults, by the way, not children. I never forgot what she told me. In fact, it was this incident that happened many years ago with this young woman that has and continues to propel me to not only talk about these issues that come up quite frequently for me, but to actually work with individuals personally to help them adjust and kind of recalibrate their approach to living in a world that still barely understands or even tolerates this important aspect of reality. This is tough stuff for a lot of people, and it's not to be taken lightly. I'll say this. I've personally spoken to individuals who felt so incredibly isolated and shut down that they said they wanted to take themselves out, check out. So this is serious stuff. But listen, I want to share with you that this absolutely does not have to be the case, not at all. That's why I'm talking with you today. So now I want to get into some solutions that I'd like to offer to any of you listening out there watching that this might touch. Keep in mind the importance of certain things like self acceptance, creating boundaries, and at the same time maintaining open communication with those people who aren't on the same page as you. Because after all, many of them you still love, right? And you do want them in your life in whatever way is possible. So let's get to the first step. And this is a primary one for me. And that's about staying true to your spiritual path, staying true to your spiritual path. You don't need anyone's validation to affirm your experiences. I don't care whether you're encountering something otherworldly or simply exploring deeper consciousness. There's so many iterations of this path that you might take. Your journey, however, is yours alone. And that's a gift. After all, why would you want to be a carbon copy of others? That would undermine your entire reason for being, and certainly the importance of the fact that you are spiritually awakened to begin with. So embrace the difference. You've heard this before, I'm sure. Do you. I love that. Simple. Do you. And where I don't advocate at all laughing or looking at others as the ones who don't get it, I've seen that happen too. You need to have compassion for them. As you mature in your own spiritual acuity and wisdom, you'll begin to see others who don't act or believe in the things that you hold so dear as individuals who, for whatever reason, chose their paths as you've chosen yours. There's this quote that I love by Friedrich Nietzsche that says, "You have your path and I have mine, whether it involves encounters with the unknown or deeper consciousness. No singular way is right." That being said, I want to share with you a question I've asked myself on many occasions as to just why some people seem to be naturally, we'll say, wired to see things differently than others. Say those who tend to resist the status quo, as an example, status quo ideology, those who constantly question authority and feel not only inclined, but insistent on going against herd mentality. You know what I'm talking about. I remember watching an interview many years ago now with Carrie Cassidy of Project Camelot. And at the time, she was working alongside her then partner, Bill Ryan. And they were interviewing a man I'll never forget named Pete Peterson. Never forget it. Peterson, I think he's since passed, was this very outspoken, kind of old time whistleblower who'd been privy to some inside intelligence, you might say, experiments that had been conducted by certain, we'll say, agencies. Let's just say. I want to get this right for you, but I'll have to go off recollection of what I'm going to relay. But anyway, in this episode with Pete Peterson that aired years ago, one of the things he was explaining in explicit detail to Carrie and Bill had to do with these experimental groups that were actually researching DNA differences in people to understand just why some people seem to be immune to mass propaganda, as an example, and even hypnosis, which is often a part of the propaganda deployment agenda. And essentially, what he said is that some individuals they found are literally constructed of a different DNA pattern that doesn't correspond with certain principles of command or control. I need to try and find that interview. I don't know if it's even still on YouTube. In fact, I doubt it is. No surprise, but I'm sure it can be found. If you message me, I'll try to look for it. And if you message me or comment below, I'll see if I can get the link over to you if it's still around. Because Peterson obviously went into a lot of detail. In fact, I think this was maybe a 2 or 3 part interview, but this is one particular section where he specifically talked about experiments that were being conducted to determine why some people had more of a proclivity toward following authority and others didn't. But anyway, very, very interesting idea here. A completely different DNA configuration, and that's interesting to say the least. And it actually corresponds with something that Billy Carson told me in one of our recent interviews, I think back in May, having to do with what he calls the worship gene.
The second thing that we know that we've discovered in our genes is something called the worship gene. And this gene, when it's on, it makes a person want to worship something on the outside of themselves. When this gene is switched off, it makes the person look within. So this is a real gene as well. Again, another artificial mutation.
Now, although DNA and genetics aren't necessarily the same thing or viewed the same way, there is a connection. That said, when we understand that the differences in views or worldview, even the capacity to be open to such subjects like the ones we're discussing now and the things that we discuss here on Higher Journeys, it could just be that there's a genetic difference in literally the way others are built and what they will or won't resonate with. So, in the process of grappling with how to deal with those people in your personal sphere, and as I said, these could be and are likely your family members or close friends or acquaintances, even a spouse or partner, consider their biological makeup. This, in and of itself, will, I think, help to calm the frustration and angst that you may carry within and around you that may actually trigger this sort of strain or divide that you have between you and whoever you're dealing with who doesn't get you. They don't have to get you, actually. They can still love you and you them without shaking hands and agreeing on all things spiritual or otherwise. It was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said, I love my quotes in this volume that I have and have had for years called Self-Reliance. He said, let me never make the mistake of feeling attacked simply because others don't understand my spiritual or metaphysical experiences. This solution lies in our own perspective about how we view others' reactions to the way we live. Just a shift in perspective can actually change the energetic blueprint you carry within and around you, which can ultimately shift the way others treat you. I think that's a very real thing. Hey, Journeyers, it's Alexis here, and I've got something really special I want to share with you today. If you've been feeling that quiet nudge, that call for transformation, this might be the moment you've been waiting for. As some of you know, I've been on my own spiritual unfoldment since 2005, and over the years, I've had the honor of coaching individuals through their own transformative experiences, helping them navigate their unique spiritual paths with incredible results. In our one-on-one sessions, we dive deep into your awakening, uncovering practical tools to integrate your transformation into your everyday life. Together, we'll work through any challenges, layer by layer, to reveal your true potential. So, if you're ready to take that first step toward your ultimate transformation, click on the link below to learn more and book a free 15-minute discovery call with me. Let's see if we're a good fit to work together. Remember, your transformation is worth the investment, and I'm here to guide you through it. Let's keep in mind the idea of the part of yourself, this is important, that's largely unconscious, but still acts as a very real signal that others will pick up on and react to. I have seen this happen. Does that make sense to you? Okay, let's move on from here. I can't tell you how many people have approached me over the years to ask, Alexis, how is it that you do what you do and keep friends outside of your interests? Assuming that I do, because I do have many friends and acquaintances that have no touch point whatsoever into these areas I'm so connected with. I remember giving a talk in Australia back in 2020. It was actually my second year speaking there. And it was centered around this very idea of isolation because your interests are so different than others, and particularly those around you. And when I was asked the question, my simple answer that I gave then, I'm going to give it now, is find common ground. Find common ground. It is great, sure, to immerse yourself in these subjects, attend UFO conferences, read books, online workshops, do things that keep your consciousness and your frequency high, not to mention spending a lot of time outdoors. But remember, you are still human. Enjoy being human. While simultaneously, as I say, keep a foot in another world if you must, or in an otherworldly realm. You can do both. But as a human being doing human things, have fun with it. I think I brought this up the other day in one of my interviews where I talked about my love for interior design. I'm also a big gardener. I love to cook. And no, I'm not a vegetarian, nor am I a vegan. Newsflash. I love food, period, and proud of it. I can also indulge in, some frivolous TV watching at times, although I don't do it that much. By the way, The Golden Girls is one of my favorites. Another newsflash. My husband and I watch it nightly. It's enjoyable. I can also hang out with a group, of regular people on a social occasion to talk about just about anything. But here's the deal. What I've come to love is the fact that I've somehow found that getting that balance, that equilibrium, actually makes my life that much more fun and exciting. I can switch gears like like the wind switches direction. I've just come to be somewhat nimble and diverse in my persona, I guess you could say, while staying true to both sides because I love being human. And I also love exploring the realms that would be considered otherworldly and perhaps even outside of being human. But we are human. I cannot emphasize enough. Be human and do you. Now, mind you, I also have no problem discussing the work that I do. And of course, I get asked a ton when I'm sharing that, I'm a journalist by profession and by trade. The next question will always be, well, what do you write about? What do you talk about? Well, you know where that goes, right? I'll also share this with you, and this will lead me into my next idea in all seriousness. Go ahead, dare yourself, challenge yourself to talk enthusiastically about your interest in these subjects. Do it with a smile on your face. You don't have to rant, nor should you. And for goodness sakes, please don't preach. Just share and smile while you're doing it. You might be interested at the response you get. I know for me, 9 times out of 10, no, probably 10 out of 10, people turn out to be super interested in these subjects that I cover. And many of them will actually tell me about something they've never shared with anyone else. I've never told anyone else this before, but fill in the blank. So, look, we all kind of need to chill when it comes to these differences. As my hairstylist used to say, he would say, Alexis, girlfriend, it ain't that severe. It ain't that severe. It's not that severe. Bottom line, you can maintain relationships with people who don't understand your experiences. That doesn't mean you have to compromise who you are. It's about finding balance. You've heard it before, setting healthy boundaries while still staying open to dialogue. I'm quoting like crazy today, but I'm going to give you another one. Gandhi said this: honest disagreement about our experiences and beliefs, even those others may find strange, can be a good sign of progress in understanding and acceptance. And in some cases, you might be surprised that there won't be disagreement at all, but rather honest curiosity. And if this is the case, guess what? You have the opportunity to play teacher or mentor. Who knows? Give it a try. Remember, your spiritual journey is unique. It's a gift, not a curse, even though sometimes it may seem like one. It's not. And most importantly, it's okay if not everyone understands it. Not everyone is going to. What matters is that you stay true to yourself and allow your relationships to evolve through honesty, through compassion, and through patience. Keep walking your path and know that balance is possible both within and with those around you. I know you can do it. I know you can. Of course, if you have any questions for me or just in general, I urge you to leave me a note below. I'm always open for more dialogue. And I do offer one-on-one coaching for these areas. If you need a little hand holding along the way, I'm here. So reach out. I'll leave a link below if you're interested in getting in touch. All right, y'all. That's it for today. I think it was a little shorter than the last commentary. But as always, I thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time right here on Higher Journeys. Take care.